Welcome to episode 46 of the What the Futures podcast. We have David Lea with Marketplace Commodities. We're going to talk about feed grains. We're going to talk about light bushel weight. Is it having an impact for prairie farmers? What are we doing with this light grain? Are there homes for it? Is it just business as usual? David Lea is going to tell us all about that. And then we're going to dive into the Crop Marketing Made Cool conference. More details. You can apply for tickets now. Let's rock and roll. Hey folks, welcome to the What the Futures podcast, your quick guide to better farming decisions. Hey there, welcome to the What the Futures podcast. This is episode number 46, of course, recorded in the UPL studio. Hope you're having a great Friday and a great, back half of harvest, right? We're all on the back half now, aren't we? Of course, my name's Ryan Denny. I am the host of the What the Futures podcast. I've spent my career working with farmers across the Prairie provinces. You know the story already. Farm kid, grain buyer, grain marketing coach, advisor. Had my own little shop for a while. Led a team of advisors in Canada and the US. Did a few little things, right? And took the show on the road here with What the Futures last year. Already episode 46. We're going to try to make it to 50 before the 1st of November. And I am going to try to take a little bit of time off from the podcast as well. So got to get my work going here to get all that done. We're going to talk this week about the Crop Marketing Made Cool conference in Drumheller, Alberta. Of course, that's in the first week of December. I've got David Lea with Marketplace Commodities. He's going to join me. We're going to talk about light grains. Are light grains a problem across the prairies? That's the main theme of my convo with David. And then I've got just a couple of things on crop marketing as well that you may want to hear. Maybe not. We'll see. Hit that subscribe button, folks. I post weekly updates. You can also go to the website, whatthefuturespodcast.ca. You can sign up and you'll get an email from me every once in a while. And actually, I haven't sent an email in a couple of days now, but one or two a week with some marketing tidbits, things going on. Anyways, that's where you can get that. Of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit us up on wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that subscribe button and help us out there just a little bit. All right, now a word from our show sponsor, John Deere. There's a whole new John Deere lineup that's out right now. New tractors, new combines, there's a new air car too, all with built-in intelligence that keeps getting smarter. Check them out at johndeere.ca. All right, folks, I have David Lea with Marketplace Commodities joining me once again. David, how's your week going?
Oh, it's been not too bad, Ryan. I would say as far as weeks go, maybe a little on the slower side than we usually see for a harvest month here. And we'll probably talk about a few reasons why that might be. So,
sure.
But pretty good. Pretty good over here in Lethbridge.
So phone's not ringing off the hook right now is what you're saying. It's a little quieter.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. In our area here, we've got, guys that are really still even out in the fields, still trying to get things wrapped up. Quite busy, and so it's been a little bit quieter week to start the week. So
fair enough. I took a drive today and ended up taking some back roads between two communities, and it's just full on. It's a gorgeous day today. It's just full on harvest. I don't know how many combines I counted, but a couple dozen for sure in my back roads adventure.
Yeah.
Definitely still on. What have you learned? The harvest of 2024. What have you kind of learned here the last month or so about this year's crop?
Well, in Lethbridge, anyhow, I've learned that it probably would have been nice had we been able to swap the August with the July month, the weather.
Yeah.
That would have made a big difference. So, and then getting this rain throughout September here, it's really delayed things. Guys are I mean, they're still in our area, not quite finished. Even some of the barley has been lodged, and it's very challenging to get off with having a combine at a snail's pace.
Yeah.
The rains have come at all kinds of times with, things in the swath still. And, even the canola is still trying to come off in this area. And I've heard that throughout many areas as well. It seems to be the sentiment, that we've seen down here. So yeah, still a challenge. I mean, it's mostly off down here in the south now, but yeah. Enough that today is 29 degrees here in Lethbridge. I'm not sure what it is up there where you're at, but
pretty close. Yeah,
29 degrees. Guys are out and going hard right now. So
yeah, for sure. It's been a start stop type of harvest. Like a guy sent me a picture. What is it? It must have been Monday, and this canola plant is like ripe or dead on a portion of it, and then super green in another part, and then yellow flowers in it as well. Wow. And so they ripped into the field, started, pulled some plants. We're like, wow, what a mess in here. Like, we got to do something. We're gonna have to wait a little bit yet. So it's gonna be one of those harvests that it just seems like it's gonna drag on for a little bit yet too. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't think they genetically engineered it like that, Ryan.
What I told the grower is that plant has 9 lives. Like, it's got 9 lives in there somewhere, and you can just see all the different lives. So anyways,
not too often you get to see that.
Yeah, quite the sight. So what about from a quality perspective out there? Like, I still see a lot of good quality wheat that's come off. I'm hearing weird things on canola though. Okay. Like sprouted canola in certain parts of the prairies. Okay. And then of course there's a bunch of light grain that's been talked about. Are you right? Can you confirm any of that, or are you seeing something different?
Well, I can't talk too much on the canola. We haven't had a huge canola program this year, so I actually haven't seen too many samples come in. The samples that I've seen come in, I tested, and they were surprisingly low oil content. But
I've heard that too.
They looked pretty good. But boy, you hit the nail on the head though. As far as barley goes, I would call it an unprecedented year for lighter barley in all kinds of areas that you generally don't see it. Okay. Even down here, I've had guys take off barley on irrigation, and it come in 44 pounds per bushel. Most of it now, that was all quite early. Most of it now is coming in 44 to 46. But I had a guy bring some in here. I bought it last week for this week. Just to, try and really cover some stuff that was rained out. Mm-hmm. And, it all came in at 53 pounds per bushel. So that was some of the first, quite heavy barley that I've seen. Yeah. And like you said, on the wheat, not as affected. Okay. Most of the wheat has all come in and graded nicely. In fact, very nice quality wheat. Yeah. So I'm not sure what happened exactly with the barley, but yeah, boy, it's the 48, generally speaking, from what I've seen so far, 48 on the top end of it. So,
okay. And from a buyer's perspective, would they kind of scoop up this low test or this low weight barley? Would they scoop this up and want this stuff off the hop, or do they have to find some heavier stuff now to make this work better? What's the buyer thinking?
The buyer is not a fan. That's how I would describe it. Okay. I got off the phone with one fellow that was quite animated about the barley that he had received, and the barley that he had received had been mixed with some heavier barley, and some probably 42-pound barley. And he was telling me that they noticed it in their cattle gains almost immediately.
Really? Okay.
Because that was fed, their gains just went in the toilet.
Okay.
So from a cattle perspective, it actually affects them more than I realized before having that conversation. So, at this point, this particular fellow, really, at first he was going to take barley at a bit of a discount if it was lighter, but with this blended barley and the results that he was seeing, he really didn't want any more. It really kind of threw him into a panic. And in fact, he was, even with a $20 a ton difference between the corn and barley price that we've seen at times here, he was quite anxious to get out of his barley contracts and go back over to corn.
Okay. Interesting, hey? Yeah.
So now that's not everyone. That was just one guy. We do have many feedlots that are still going to use the barley that will I think the larger feedlots can work with that lighter barley. So we do, we've had a little bit of we had a lighter barley program that we put out, but it surprised me how rapidly it got booked up. Like it really got booked up till about January, in about the first 3 to 4 days of having it. So
that was geared specifically towards lightweight barley?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a bit of I won't go too much into the details of the program itself, but where we could bring some light barley in, and
sure,
we filled up quite rapidly on it. So
there's lots a little bit of supply. Yeah. A little bit of supply out there for sure. Is this light barley, is this something an issue that's going to linger on into next summer, do you think? Or can we find homes for this stuff throughout the winter and spring here?
Well, that one, I don't know. The jury is probably still out on that a little bit.
Yeah.
I've, in all the years I've been doing this, I've dealt with light barley every year. Just about.
Sure.
It seems like there's always some somewhere, and it really hasn't been a problem. And in Lethbridge, the discount schedules that we work with have always almost gone right down to even 38 pounds per bushel. And so you just ship this stuff here. It's no problem. It goes in.
Yep.
The thing that I've noticed this year is guys have really put their discount schedules only down to about 46 pounds per bushel.
Okay.
And then kind of the buyer's discretion after that, which really makes it tricky for an intermediate like us.
Yep.
So I think that by doing that, because if they were to put it at a discount schedule like normal, they would just get filled right up with 42 to 43, and then they couldn't.
That's all they'd get. Yeah.
That's all that they'd get.
Right. Yeah.
So it's been it's been a bit of a challenge, but I think what it does by keeping the discount schedule in that 46 plus is it does just kind of push it out. So
yeah,
because then you can just move less of it, and it has to kind of be brought like dribbled into the system, so to speak. So I think it just pushes it out further, like you maybe proposed there. And I kind of think that we'll see it, whereas most guys like to get rid of it right away and move it out quite early instead of trying to bin and store and deal with that. I do think it could. I think we'll still see this in 2025 myself.
All right. So what's cool in crop marketing this week? Well, actually, a whole bunch of different things, and it's actually positive, right? It's cool. All right. Okay. Let's start off with potential. Not potential. I guess the port strike. There's a strike notice out there as of recording. I'm not sure what we're seeing for delays, but both in Canada and my understanding is the US as well. Of course, port strikes, rail strikes, all this stuff, not good for basis, not good for commodities. Hopefully hopefully it doesn't last very long, or hopefully it's been resolved by the time we've listened to this. That seems to be what happens when we record the podcast. By the time you listen to it, it's old news and has resolved itself. So, fingers crossed on the port strike. But that is the only negativity in this one. On the positive side, we've got strength in canola. We've got strength in soybeans, soybean oil. And we have like a hodgepodge of different things going on. First and foremost, I know everybody wants to talk about the U.S. August heat, taking a couple of bushels off of the soybean yield. And, that's what's coming in right now. I think soybeans are like 10% harvested, folks. And in my experience, in the past, usually either the worst stuff kind of comes out first and then it gets better. So I don't think that's the big bull story right now. I still think soybeans in the U.S. are a little bit ugly from an ending stocks perspective and a demand perspective. But I like that the trade is thinking about that. Okay, that's what I'll say. More importantly, Brazil is hot and dry. And the forecast does bring rains in for the month of October, but it keeps getting pushed back a little bit here. And so we've seen some really nice strength in soybeans, up $1 from the lows. I know American farmers are harvesting a really good soybean crop and really excited to sell it right now at these prices as well. It's a little bit of a gift, okay? And I think we got to think of it the same way. Now, again, it's weather, right? So if it stays hot and dry for a longer period of time, the market can find a little bit more support here. Maybe beans go up to 11. Maybe canola makes its way to that 640, 650 range on the November contract here. Time will tell. It typically is dry in Brazil in September, and moisture events are more significant in October. Like that's normally what happens. We'll see. I think that's probably what happens again this year, but hey, obviously time will tell in the next few weeks. Continuing on, we also had that, interest rate cut in China. Like they talked about homeowners getting like a 0.5% cut off their mortgages. Imagine, you have a mortgage on your house at 5%, you get the phone call or the email, hey, you're down 4.5%. Great. So they're trying to stimulate the economy in China. They have a real estate issue going on. And so for us, China, doing better, the economy doing better is better for demand, obviously, for commodities that we ship there. So, again, will this amount to much of anything? Probably not. But, there's a few stories here now that are certainly helping these markets climb. You can't forget, though, October 1st it's in a couple of days here. And so will China, that's when our tariffs go on to the Chinese EVs and batteries or whatever it was. Will there be any announcement here in the next week that takes the wind out of our sails? Hopefully not, but that's what I would be looking at. Have I sold any canola lately? No, I haven't. But remember, I do have some puts on as a bit of an insurance policy. And hey, if canola wants to rally another $20-$30, I'm all for it. So I can get some of my stuff priced here. When it comes to canola yield, I'm starting to get a little friendlier towards better production. And so you kind of you hear all this stuff and you talk to all these people and you go like, okay, not bad. Okay, it's getting bad. Oh, now it's getting a little bit better. Like you're trying to figure out numbers and areas. And sometimes you get a bunch of numbers in the same area and you got to remember, oh yeah, let's look a little further. The canola yields are getting a little bit better in my conversations. So I think production's just coming up just a little bit more than what I was initially thinking here. But again, lots of harvest in front of us. Yeah. Okay. What else do we have here? We're loading trains. The buyers need to buy it. The sellers farmers don't really want to sell it. So you get these little premiums to fill cars here and these little adjustments that happen. Again, we're not talking about prices that you're like, fire up the truck, load it up, let's go. Like, we're talking about working out of these terrible bottoms. Like, we were offered $6.23 a bushel for hard red spring wheat at the start of wheat harvest. Like, that was the price. Now it's like 7.5. So is 7.5 exciting? No, it's not. It's a lot better than the 6.23 or whatever that freaking price was at the start of harvest there. All right. And so you still see that yellow pea trains, some barley trains in some areas, feed barley specifically, and still with some canola as well. You see some premiums there too. On the yellow pea front, India obviously accepting Canadian yellow peas now to the end of December. So we are seeing the Viteras kind of leading the way there, seeing some 11s now across the prairies. Still, some brokers are in the 950s to 1025s picked up on farm, but we are seeing things closer to 11. Now, there's also some strength in green peas. Green peas now, at least a $15 a bushel price out there, 15 and climbing. So that's a good thing as well. I did see oat prices climb in Alberta here once again. I know I read market updates out of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, and it's like, oat price is steady, nothing going on with the oat market. And yet Alberta's, popped up 20 cents here, popped up 40 cents. Oh, now it's popped up another 25. Again, you're looking at 4.75 oats. It's not that exciting, but it's going in the right direction, folks. And that's what's cool in crop marketing this week, is many of these crops are just working themselves into these higher price points. And hey, I think we got selling opportunities coming in very short order here. All right, I think we'll leave it. Yeah, that's good for what's cool in crop marketing. All right, my positive moments of the week, of course, my favorite segment on the show, because I get to talk about family and kids. So Willa turns 4 years old this week. As of listening to this, she will have turned 4. And obviously, kids grow up so fast. And we see it all the time with our two. But, this 4-year-old's birthday party, with Barbie, she got a new Barbie and a new Barbie, like, ambulance, because she's all about medical. Like, if you're at my house, if you just like open the door and walked into my house like unannounced, you'd see like my wife or I like laying on the couch. You'd think we're in distress because we have a medical team surrounding us with our daughter and our son, and they've got all their medical gear out. It's all medical in our house right now. She's going to be a doctor. And anyways, 4-year-old's birthday party. It's a whole extravaganza because we have Thursday was the birthday. Okay, at home, she did a little bit of a spa thing with her mom. At home, we had the bouncy castle from Grant, who's a listener to the podcast. He let us borrow this ginormous bouncy castle for the week, so we got that going on. Friday, we're going to a hotel. Friday, Saturday, we're hoteling it. Saturday, we rented out the gymnastics club, which I did sign my waiver. Okay, so we got that figured out. But we're going to the gymnastics club for the afternoon with her schoolmates, some of her schoolmates. And anyways, we got this whole thing. It's an extravaganza of a birthday. All right. And then my other positive moment is I did get to go and bring supper out in the field to Scott and Candace out of Killam, Alberta. And so, hit the road, beautiful day, absolutely beautiful day in September. Brought them out past a pantry, which if you ever make it to Sherwood Park, Alberta, you have to stop at Pasta Pantry, okay? It's just this little shop, homemade pastas. Death by Chocolate is unbelievable. Anyways, got out there, brought my daughter with me as well. And, just having supper in the field, they stopped everybody, harvest is going quite well there, so moving along quite well. So they stopped everybody. We were able to enjoy the meal and talk and reminisce. I had brought a meal out to them back when the Blue Jays were good and in the playoffs. And we were reminiscing on old times. And, speaking of kids, I first started working with Scott and Candace when they're, youngest daughter was born. And when I showed up at the farm, she looked at me like straight in the eyes, like same height as me, straight in the eyes. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm getting old. But anyways, it was a good time. And we got to ride around in an X9 combine again, which my kids are getting spoiled because that's all we seem to cruise around in is the X9 combine at harvest time. Or what about light oats? I had a grower reach out to me this morning and he said, we're trying to make the call here on baling this oat crop because we know it's light, or harvesting it, combining it. And I have to admit, that's the first time that I've really been approached about that, weight, bushel weight being the issue. And he said, well, Ryan, do you know if there's a market for light oats? And I said, well, again, if it's going to be 38, 39, 40 pounds, okay, there's definitely opportunity to do something there. But if it's going to be below that, then I asked him, like, how low are we talking here, right? And I guess, are you guys seeing anything on the light oats? I know you don't do traditionally a lot of oat volume, but anything there?
I have seen them, and like we've had some of the horse plants down here close their doors. They would normally be the ones to go to. Yeah. I think it's important to point out, like, a feed oat is 38 pounds per bushel. So it's quite a bit lower than your milling oat, which is about 42.5 pounds per bushel, Avery scale.
Yeah.
So in that range, you're fine. We can move those, no problem. But yeah, I have seen them where you get down into the 32 to 34 pound oats as well.
Yep.
And again, the two places that I have generally been able to go with these are out in Saskatchewan now, southern Saskatchewan. And just like our light barley program, their light oat program filled up almost within a few days for months out.
Fair enough.
So
yeah, fair enough.
So it's another one of those ones that I think could be a little tricky to move. There's just no shortage of grain. Like, even with the corn, for example, there's enough demand over the concern of the barley bushel weights and this kind of thing, where I know that the line companies are still planning to bring it in January forward. I've talked to them and participated in that market to a small degree. So I know that, like, for example, one of the feedlots that I deal with, they want to use more of like a 50-50 barley corn blend. Okay. Just to make sure that they can keep an eye on their gains. So those are the types of strategies that I'm seeing, and so that brings in a lot of availability. Like the barley, even though it's lighter bushel weight, the yields this year were actually quite fantastic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we've got a large quantity of barley that's either close or a little bit sub. Now, I should say, the real early August barley that came off, especially in our area, a lot of that, I'm not seeing so much of the 42 to 43 pound per bushel stuff anymore either. It seems to mostly be in the 46 to 48. That seems where most of it seems to be coming in, which isn't too much of a problem to deal with. So,
okay. When you do a barley corn mix there, a ration, is there any like not secret, but a formula where you could bring in some lighter barley to mix with that corn and it would be okay? Or does it have to be 48 pounds, 50 pounds?
Certainly the domain of kind of the nutritionists to watch what's coming in. And yes, they do. Like, quite frankly, the feedlot alley, the main feedlots, 95% of the barley probably down here in Lethbridge. These guys really would like to just use barley. That is their preferred feed. The second that they need to, bring corn in or something like that, it doesn't work very well because you have to have other space allocated for it, more bins. Sure. Yeah. This idea of blending some or just going straight with it.
More time.
More time, exactly. Yeah. The resetting rollers. like for example, this blended barley, this one particular fellow had a real distaste in his mouth because trying to process that when it's just, you get some that's the right plumpness and it rolls okay, and then the rest is like oats and it's just going through the rollers. You could, I was the welcome recipient for his getting that off his chest.
Yeah. So part of the job some days, hey David? Yeah. Part of the job. Yeah.
So, but anyway, there you go.
With U.S. corn, have we seen any change in how the buyers are looking at it for this winter and this year? There's a heavy program last year. Are we seeing, obviously a big U.S. corn crop? Are we seeing similar type pattern year over year? Are we seeing anybody step up or step back from buying U.S. corn?
Oh, definitely a step back. There's far less volume coming this year. I mean, there wasn't the push that we saw the previous May, like the May 2023. There's been nowhere near that type of push this year. And with like the basis like from what I've heard the last week or so, the basis at the PNW, the Pacific Northwest, has really picked up. So, you get into a $20-$25 basis spread on corn to barley. It makes it really not very attractive when unless you're steaming it. Like with steam flaking, guys will probably get 115% of barley kind of thing.
Okay.
Whereas if they're just dry rolling it along with barley, it's probably on par or even maybe in the 95% of barley. So to be paying more for that, it's, I can't emphasize enough that they really don't, it's not their preferred feed. Their preferred feed is what's right around here. They just have to do this stuff to make what they're doing work. So, so I hope that kind of answers the question. So.
Yeah, you bet. So we've been chatting a lot here over the last almost year, in markets that have been bearish, right? Starting to see feed barley bids pick up a little bit in certain parts of the prairies. Are you turning any more neutral towards feed barley values moving forward? Is there any twinkle in your eye about higher barley prices in this winter, or how do you see this market right now?
Well, my own opinion just on that is, we've definitely seen the market move down. I tend to think that we did put a bottom in at that, like in Lethbridge, it dropped to about $245 a ton toward the end of August. It seems like that may have been a bottom with the knee-jerk reaction that we've had coming out of the bottom. It's now traded, in and around $6 a bushel delivered Lethbridge, which is about $275.58, I think. Okay. A little bit maybe traded over that, but it seems to be right in and around that range.
Yep.
Oftentimes coming out of these downtrends, that have been intact for some time, the tendency is to believe that the market has turned and that we're now going higher. When I look at a chart, and my experience is that the market trends up or down only about 30% of the time. 70% of the time it moves sideways. Right. Yep. That's kind of what I think. I think this move, we might be kind of seeing the top end of this current move. And it wouldn't surprise me between now and maybe even February to see us trade somewhere in this, call it 270 to 285 range for maybe some time. You might get little spots where it peaks in and out of that range, but kind of have more of a sideways move to it, where guys aren't happy with the price, but they eventually do sell a bit. These guys aren't really happy having to pay more than the 245 that they saw, but they need a bit, and it just kind of grinds along that way. With ample feedstock as well, and And, there's such grass out there. The calves aren't coming to market fast either. Like if I drive around my area, they're all still out in the field. So
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
up. So, a lot of this rally might even be like internal companies actually covering their positions more than the actual feedlots buying. It's difficult to say, but that's just my opinion on it. That we could start to enter into a little more of a grind phase than we've seen. The last 2 years have been up, last 4 years, I should say, were up. And then the last 2 years have been down. And then it's just been like every time you turn around, it's either moving in one direction or the other. It wouldn't surprise me now to maybe see a little more of a sideways market. So,
yeah, I can't say that I disagree with you. Like when I look at charts myself, I actually think that we can trade a bit more neutral here. Sometimes in like wheat or canola, you'll get these rallies that happen kind of during harvest, which sometimes not everyone's paying attention to. And then you look back and say, when did it get, where was I in October when it hit that level? Right. And so you get that stuff that happens. I think barley can be a little bit of a different beast, at times. What I'm seeing for premiums out there is, a buyer that specifically is targeting some heavier bushels, heavier weight, like looking for some heavy barley for whatever reason. Saw a little premium from that. Couple line companies trying to get some coverage. I don't know if that's vessels, if they're doing some vessels off the coast, or if that's, the domestic market. But it seemed like there was enough action out there that I think a couple vessels have traded, and seems that way. But now it could get a little quiet. Like even the malt stuff, like when I look at malt barley, and I know you don't dabble in any malt, I don't think, do you?
No, I don't, but I do talk to a few guys that do. So I do hear about it, and it can affect the feed barley market. So I try to keep a little bit of a pulse on the malt market.
Well, the line companies have really dug in their heels at their posted bids. And even in one area, Saskatchewan, the feed offer and the malt offer we're at a point where I was like, man, I know it's a little less for the feed, but it's peace of mind. You have bushel weight. It's just like malt. Sometimes you get a nasty phone call 3 weeks after you've hauled your malt barley thinking that you're good. And you get the call and they say, yeah, when we were loading the boat, there was an issue with yours and you're getting the feed.
Yeah.
It's happened. Oh. I've been a part of some of those conversations. Anyway.
If it was me personally, I would need to see $1 spread between malt and feed at least, to play the malt game myself. Otherwise it would just not even be worth it, for the amount of times and
for the gray hairs,
and all the sampling, and just everything that you got to do. That's kind of, so yeah. If the prices start to narrow out, then for sure. But oddly enough, I kind of thought that we would see more of the barley from that malt market coming into the feed market, because the barley's it's light, but oftentimes it's still quite plump, especially down in the U.S. I'm more talking about down there right now in Montana. Sure. They've actually still been able to get that stuff in as malt, which surprises me.
Yep.
I thought we would be inundated with barley coming up from what I had heard down there, and just the bushel weights, and there is light barley for sure. Yeah. But the plumpness is actually more of a factor for them, and for the malt, at least from the source that I was speaking with. And so I've bought more. I've actually bought more wheat out of the U.S. to come up here, winter wheat and things like that, than I have barley this year. So it's actually been very slow on the barley side, and that's kind of what I've heard. So don't write your barley off if it's light. Make sure you get it checked for that malt if there is that decent spread to be made. So
the domestic maltsters are still paying a pretty healthy spread there.
Okay.
Some pretty big premiums over the feed market. So yeah, definitely worthwhile there.
There you go.
Okay, let's get into a little housekeeping here for this week. I've been looking forward to this because we're going to spend the majority of housekeeping talking about the conference here. But before we get to that, my song of the week, I don't know if you guys had time. You didn't. We've had good harvest weather, but I think it's on Prime. The Tragically Hip released No Dress Rehearsal. It's four episodes. I'm a huge Tragically Hip fan. When I redo the studio here in October, I don't know what the makeover is all going to look like, but I've got Gord Downey up in the corner here. He's going to make his way down somewhere into the background here. So we're going to make some changes to the studio. But anyways, my song of the week is At the 100th Meridian. And I put it on the playlist. I put a bunch of Tragically Hip on there for you as you get, towards the back half or the tail end of harvest here. But just a great show. And I'm a big Hip fan. I know it's a love-hate thing with those guys, but I've really loved the Hip for a long time. So that's the song of the week. Before we get to the conference, so like I've said, we don't want to talk about Agfinity every week, okay? But it continues in the background, folks. It continues again today. Recording this on Wednesday. Another farm, looking for payment. That's 2 actually in the last 5 days. So again, folks, the stuff's out there. All right. Okay. Now let's get to the conference. Now, the cool thing about it today is that you can actually go and apply. And I've talked about this in past episodes. You shook your head at me saying, what is this jerk doing, making us apply to go to this conference? You know the story. We're trying to be gatekeepers here. We don't want to sell tickets to just anybody. We want it to be farmers in the room. And when I stand on that stage on the first night, I keep wanting to say Friday night. It's not a Friday night. It's a Tuesday night. I want to ask who in that room, everyone who farms, stay standing. Everyone who's not farming, sit down. And I expect that the only people sitting down are our guest speakers. Okay. That is it. Everyone else in that room has to be farmers. Now, the agenda is not quite, it's percolating. It's not quite done yet. It's not quite set. But these are the people that are coming to present. Okay. Now, what time they're presenting, the exact title of the presentation, those things are not, I have a really good idea. I just don't have the exact wording yet. And I'm still waiting there's a keynote spot that we're just waiting. It's like a bit of a dance to get some of this stuff done. And so there's some back and forth and making sure that we get all this straightened out. So there's still a keynote spot that I know who it is, but we got to get some stuff, documentation taken care of, and just make sure that we get the yeses. But here's who's speaking. Okay. We've got, Terry Betker from Backswath. He's going to talk about, some farm financials, maybe a little bit of benchmarking as well. We have futures brokers coming in and for a couple of different things. Futures brokers are going to talk about the relationship they have with farmers and how that translates into managing risk. We're also going to get them to do some 101 stuff. So for those of you that are like, hey, I'm just kind of getting going in this, or I've got the next generation getting going, we are going to do a session on some of that beginner stuff as well, or even a refresher for some of you that haven't used options for a while. We've got Trent Clarenbach with Clarenbach Research. This guy does phenomenal technical analysis, and for me, I'm excited to have him there. So he'll be there. Chuck Penner with Left Field Commodities. Again, someone the other day told me you have the godfather of crop marketing coming, and I didn't know Chuck was the godfather, but it makes sense. And so he'll be there as well, doing a specialty crops outlook. We have Evan with Simple Hedge. Simple Hedge is for farmers who want to take risk management to the next level. He'll explain it in more detail, but that's more of a technology side for us. We have Alain Goubeau with Combine, a farm financial software. He's going to come and talk to us not about, hey, here's a software, but about how software can help farmers win on the crop marketing side. Okay. Again, no sales pitches. We have Cam, who's a fuel broker. He's going to give us a bit of an idea on how they work with farmers when they're, selling fuel, farmers buying fuel in bulk, and the savings that are available to you. We're going to go over elevator contracts, grain elevator contracts, and we might even have farmers do this presentation. There's talk in the background of some farmers that may step up and educate us on what they've used, and I think I'm going to be a part of that one too. We've got Ag I3 is going to be there. They're a crop insurance company, crop insurance and crop marketing. What's that got to do with each other? You're going to find out. Who else do we have here? We've got David with Marketplace, who's all over this episode, but he's going to be there as well. Topics, right? These are the topics we're covering. Cash flow planning, cost of production. And if you already have a cost of production, you don't have to go to that session, but cost of production, we're going to talk about that. Again, futures brokers we talked about, specialty crops outlook, futures brokerage and strategy, benchmarking. The list goes on and on here. We have people coming to talk to us about decision making and confidence. So you think about it, you could have all the information and you could know that, hey, this is going to be a great decision for my farm. But yet sometimes you hesitate. Sometimes you don't execute. And so what holds us up in the decision-making process? We're going to talk about that as well. And I had a farmer tell me, Ryan, when I was working with you on the consulting side, often you would get the ball rolling on some of the contracts. Like you would get the parties, you get everyone to the party of contracting. And he said it just took away that pressure of that final call of selling. And I said, well, that's weird. I said, I don't really feel that. I don't really feel that pressure. And he's like, yeah, you didn't raise the crop though. Yep. Good point. I thought that was really great. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about creating your own crop marketing plan. So we have all these experts and, industry geniuses joining us, which is great. You're going to gather up all that intel. And then on the second day, we're going to create crop marketing plans. You're going to do some work. We're giving everybody a booklet. We're creating a crop marketing booklet thing in the background here as well. What else do we have here? Farmer panels. We got farmers learning from farmers, right? So powerful. We're going to do a couple of different panels as well. So I know I don't have the agenda in a nice fancy document for you to look at yet. It's coming very, very soon. But you can today, you can go to the website, ryandenny.ca, and you can apply to come to the conference. You can put in your farm information. I want to go, Ryan, here's my info. We're going to send you an email back when it's approved or when we've reviewed it and say, hey, yeah, great. Welcome to the conference. Here's where you go to buy tickets now. Here's the link to get your tickets. Okay. I don't know, folks. I'm so excited to be putting this on. Every time we have a meeting with the folks in Drumheller, like we're doing all the little things. Okay. We've got Bernie and the Boys. Bernie and the Boys restaurant has been on some of those fancy eating shows. Like you got to eat here, right? This place is awesome. They're doing lunch for us. We got Heller Good Sandwiches, again, top-notch restaurant coming in doing lunch for us. We have a great caterer. We have prime rib on the menu. Okay, we're not messing around here. We're doing all the little things. I can't tell you everything because I don't want to spoil it all or spoil, But we're partnered with Valley Brewing. We have requests out to the 4-H club. We've got some of you listeners who are helping us out as well, tying us in with some of the high school kids to see if we can get some of them to come out for a learning experience. We've got some of you helping us just tap into some of these industry groups out in the Drumheller area. And, I tell my team every week that, let's go back to the community. Like what else can we do here? Who else can we support? What other establishment, have we not thought of or included in all this? Like I don't know. I can't say it all on the episode. Maybe I'll dedicate one episode here in October to just the entire thing. But, I need you to know too that, two things. Like number one, anyone that has dealt with me in the past knows that, my attention to detail on this type of stuff is pretty intense at times, maybe a little bit too intense, but we are thinking and looking at all the little things. So you're going to have a great time learning and taking some education from this and implementing it in your 2025 crop marketing plan and beyond. I know that you're going to do that. Okay. But the last thing I want to say is when you apply, you've not given us anything. Okay. You can go here, apply, and then we're going to send you the link for tickets, and stuff happens, life happens, things happen. Maybe you've changed your mind, whatever it is. There's no real pressure on our side here. We're going to sell out this room. We are going to fill it with farmers from Western Canada to learn about crop marketing. Never will you feel that you're pressured to do one thing or the other. And things happen, life changes. I don't know. We need to know who's now moving from the wait list to more interested. And we are going to start selling tickets here in the very, very near future. We just got to finalize this agenda and just check 2 more things off before we can go whole hog. But now today, you can go ryandenny.ca, click on any of the tabs, and then it'll pull you into the next page. And on the top, it'll say 2024 conference. Click on that, scroll down, you can apply. And then again, once you apply and you're approved, we'll send you the link that you can actually buy the tickets and see the agenda as well, right? The agenda will be there soon as it can be. But we want to get the ball rolling. And again, I appreciate everyone reaching out. I appreciate all the emails, the messages. Like we were doing a rough number count the other day on just people that had engaged with us and the Lunchbox crew members and some of the farms I do consulting work with. And I looked over at Yvonne and I was like, we need a bigger room. So yeah, we did make some adjustments there as well this week, but we're at the Badlands Community Center. We're in like downtown Drumheller, and even reaching out to a few of the local pubs to say, hey, we're clearing out of this place at 9-10 o'clock at night. We're coming for you as well. So I don't know. I'm super pumped and excited, and already started to plan next year's. Like next year, when we're in Drumheller, we're going to announce next year's conference, and we're going to move this thing around. But we're aiming for Saskatchewan here in 2025. Anyways, Drumheller, come join me. It's going to be a great time. All right, that's it for housekeeping. Let's go from there. So just in regards to feed wheat, though, anything kind of stand out on the feed wheat market right now, or is it acting as it normally does?
I don't think so too much. I mean, the feed mills are, they're using it aggressively, more so than they were last year. A lot of them were just strictly on corn. So that's probably, on the feed wheat end, quite a nice thing for us to see that they're back using feed wheat again in good form. Mm-hmm. A lot of the feedlots as well. Some of them, because the bushel weights aren't as variable on the wheat, or have actually really picked up their wheat purchasing. Some of them haven't, though, which I've been surprised. The quality's been good on it. So, soft white wheats and all varieties of wheat can come down into the feed market. So that might be a good thing for guys to keep an eye on and watch. My guess is that the feed wheat probably values I would say probably fairly close to corn to guys. I mean, whether
Sure.
they're going to pay that value or not.
Yep.
So yeah, that there's definitely market for that, and that all over the place, from the feed mills all the way up and down the number 2 corridor, all the way down to Lethbridge and into Saskatchewan, everywhere, little pockets of smaller markets, but very good.
Okay, cool. And before we let you go, any commodity kind of stand out right now that's a hot topic for you? Anything you're searching for? Anything?
Yeah, the one thing that I had traded a bit of early was low protein durum, actually.
Okay, sure.
So that was something that we'd done pretty well. I think the durum market in Lethbridge here had got to around $8 a bushel, and I was able to pay somewhere in around the 9 to 9.25 range, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And I have a buyer that would still be looking for more. Now, the top end of the protein that they're looking for at this point, maybe they'll adjust this later, because a lot of the stuff is higher protein. So the max protein on this that I've been looking for is 13%. So
okay, sure.
And it's been tricky to find, but I suppose if anyone has anything, and it does go down to the US, so from where I'm guessing the bulk of your listeners are, it still may not work from up there versus what the local elevator is paying, but it might be something to look for. That was I don't trade a lot of durum, so I guess that's why that one stood out to me.
Yeah. Well, podcast listeners now, as the show has evolved here, it's actually we get emails now from like the northern states as well. Like a few guys message in quite consistently, and get some emails from southern Manitoba, messages from all over Saskatchewan as well now. So
Perfect.
it's fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so some low pro durum. All right, cool.
Durum,
well,
just trying to think if there's anything else. We are looking for some red lentils. Again, probably works better down in the Lethbridge area. I'm hearing kind of that they're around 31, 32 cents, something like that. But I'm looking for, probably about 1,000 ton of those. A couple loads of green peas. Of course, we're always looking for barley as well.
Yeah.
Barley and feed wheat are our main commodities. These are just some of the other ones that have kind of got on the radar, right? That I'm actively looking for. So
some of the fun ones, you bet. Yeah. And I'll just remind folks that this is pre-recorded, and so by the time you get a hold of David, some of these may or may not be around anymore. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, if they fill, they fill, and
exactly,
and then it's usually gone. But yeah.
Good stuff, David. Well, I appreciate you jumping on the show here once again.
My pleasure.
And I look forward to having you here again in the next month or so.
That sounds great. Yeah, I appreciate you reaching out, Ryan, and wish everyone a good finish up to their harvest.
Awesome. Thanks, David.
You bet. Take care.
Alrighty, let's get over to the mailbag now. Of course, sponsored by Pioneer Seeds, and we are giving away in the month of September in the field party supper or after harvest party, right? You kind of end of September here, you guys are cruising, right? We're probably talking after harvest party, but anyways, valued at $750. They'll partner with a local caterer, bring all the fixings, and I'm hoping that I can make it work where I pop in as well. I know that might mean catching a flight somewhere. I know that might mean taking a drive. But hey, if I can get out there, I certainly will. So we have 5. It just lit up again. So we have 5, but there's a couple that are the same. All right. So I'm going to tackle, I got one from Leo this week in regards to, he says, I normally grow green peas, but I'm thinking of switching to yellows for next year. What do people do? What do you think about that scenario? And should I be considering switching over to yellows? Well, Leo, I don't know specifically all the ins and outs of the markets in your neck of the woods there. But I was just looking. I saw my first new crop yellow pea bid for next fall. And I know that you're going to say, what, already? And that's what I said too. The problem was it wasn't super exciting. I just want to confirm here if I can find a price in your backyard. But the price I saw was in Alberta, and it was an $8.50. Yeah, you have an $8.25 yellow pea bid in your backyard. Okay, $8.25. Now, for budgeting purposes, I think I put in. Did I put in a 9? Let me double check what I put in here real quick. See if I can find it. Yeah, I put in a 9 and I kept your greens at 12. So, you'd have to see a pretty significant yield gain on those yellows. If you're confident that you're going to get an extra, 10 bushels or something like that, then yellows are definitely in the mix for you. But, I still think greens supply is going to be, ending stocks will be tight. Lots of poor quality, high bleach out there. And green pea value should hold in quite well. I think you'll see a surge, though, in green pea acres next year. You'll see a lot more green peas going in. And so a word of caution around that. But hey, if someone wants to offer you 12, 13 to get started, I think that'll be in the cards here in January, and returns look better for the greens once again. Again, I don't know, a yield perspective. Maybe some of the listeners can email in and say, hey, between greens and yellows, I grow an extra 10, 15 bushels of yellows, and then we could do some more penciling out and see what makes sense. But I still think greens are the way to go. Maybe switch up your green pea variety if you're frustrated with your variety. There's some newer ones out there that you can take a look at, and maybe that'll give you that advantage back. All right. I had 2 questions come in regards to oats. And so, both asking about the outlook in the oat market. And I think David talks about this in pretty good detail here as well. But, milling oats, I know that everyone wants to talk about oat crops being bigger year over year from a production standpoint, but where are all these light oats going to go? And so when I talk to a few of the buyers in my network, they're finding their heavy oats, but not as easy as you think. So prices have upside potential. Now, Jason's question was between now and December, what's a price to target? Well, in his region, his buyer, mentioned $5. And I think $5 target, put in right now for movement in November, December. I think that's going to strike here in the next couple of weeks. Are you going to see something above that? I think you're going to have to wait till later this winter to really see some gains there. Jason wants to move his oats before the end of the calendar year. I think 5 is probably a pretty fair number for you. Like I think that's a number that's going to attract some business for the buyer as well. And, I think I'd be a seller too between here and Christmas if you want to get them moved. That's what I would do. Jenny and Colton ask, what's the outlook later on? Well, I still think we got to figure out how many heavy oats are out there. But I believe that upside potential is going to be there into the spring and summer. Now, can you cash flow it? Right. But, ideally you just pick away at it here to meet your cash flow needs. And I expect strength for oats into next spring and into next summer. To what level? I can't tell you quite yet. But it wouldn't surprise me, if we were staring down in portions of the prairies, some high 5s, maybe even a 6 out there could be in play. That's a big jump over where values are today. We'll have to see quality first, though. All right. I don't see a lot of downside in the oat market at this time. Patience should be okay. We had Val send in a question about, was it worth it to swath or straight cut canola in northeastern Alberta this year? Now, I'm not an agronomist. I don't know the answer to that question per se. But what I did get this week was a picture of a plant from the eastern side of Alberta, where you could see where it's, the crop's ripe and it's done and it's ready to harvest. And then you have a super green stem and then yellow flowers on there. Right? Challenging. I was chatting with my friend Lynn, also in Northeast Alberta. Same thing. They went in, saw the same type of plant. And so they went and did an application. Again, I think it was Reglone, but don't quote me on that. So they could go and harvest that crop. And she messaged me today and said it was going much better. They were going faster and keeping more in the hopper there. So, yeah. So I'm assuming that if you're waiting to straight cut right now, you're waiting for a frost, which we haven't seen here yet towards the end of September. So putting in the swath, maybe that did make more sense a few weeks ago. I'm not sure yet, but I know both are out there, have happened, and lots of canola coming off now. So again, straight cut. If you haven't sprayed it, you're probably waiting for a frost to kill that thing off and get it going. Last one here from Greg. He's asking about the strength in the canola market. And he says, Ryan, it looks like canola is poised to break through $600. He sent this on Monday. Greg, can we borrow your crystal ball, man? We did break above 600. Where's the next area of resistance? And is it possible for canola to test $700 per ton in the next crop year? So nearby resistance, but also next year. Now, to see it go to 700 next year, is that in the cards? Things happen. Yes, it's in the cards. We're currently 648, 650. Can we see it climb to 700? I don't think the way the setup is today, I don't expect that we're going to see 700 at this time for November of 2025. But if I look back at the charts, 675 to 680 is definitely in play. You got some resistance here. You could call it at 650, but I wouldn't even really look at that. The 700 in play, it certainly can happen. I just think 675 is where we could top out with the current setup we have. If we get more news, something fresh to feed the bulls, then, certainly. And if the NOV 24 contract, the nearby one, if that makes a move, north of 650 to 660, then yeah, maybe that far one a year later can go a little bit closer to 700. But what I told my crew is, hey, 630, 640, which we've passed through. If you want to dust off the 2025 crop marketing plan, if you want to get familiar again with who you're going to do contracts with for next year, futures first contract, maybe you haven't done those in a while or before, go ahead and you can do a little bit here, a percent or two, just to get going. At 650 though, that's where I'd be willing to take a bit more of a stand to get some 650, get some of that done and take a bit more of a stand. And then from there, again, we're still building that plan for next year, picking away at it as we go. It's so interesting to me to see the market show strength and folks that, not curl up, not freeze, but sit here and say, well, geez, maybe this market's there. Maybe they're just telling us something. Maybe they're, the market's going to go up a whole bunch. And hey, markets go up and down. They certainly do. But you can start building your plan for next year. You can start executing. And there's things to do to participate. There's always something that you can look at here where you've protected downside and leave some upside exposure available. But this is about 2025 it's about survival in the crop marketing game. And you are going to always have a low contract. You're going to have the one that you're like, oh, shoot, what was I thinking that day? And a high one and say, darn, why didn't I do more? That's the way it goes. But if you're getting to levels of profitability here, why wouldn't you start taking a look at this? There's no guarantees, folks, that prices stay where they're at at this time. Anyways, great questions this week. Thanks to Pioneer Seeds for sponsoring this month with that Harvest Supper. And of course, fire your questions into Ryan at whatthefuturespodcast.ca. All questions in the month of September that have come in or will come in, we're going to draw for that harvest meal. Now, Eating Your Veggies. The Eating Your Veggies segment is brought to you by the conference now. The Marketing Made Cool conference sponsoring the Eating Your Veggies segment. All right. 3 quick ones for you this week. I think we beat this one to death already on the podcast, but canola targets 2024 and 2025 crop. Okay. I want to see you take advantage of the strength in this market and get a little bit of something done. Soybean growers as well. You know, I was listening to a technical update here on soybeans earlier today. And, they said, yeah, soybeans could make their way up another 20 cents here. But, if they fall below $10, it's going to be a very steep decline lower. So they were thinking, hey, get some stuff done here, get some targets set, stay on top of it. Again, beans for 24 and for 2025. So that's 1 and 2 for Eating Your Veggies. And the third one is just, hey, go over to the conference website, take a peek, ryandenny.ca, apply for the conference. If you have questions, the email, Ryan at whatthefuturespodcast.ca. That's how you get a hold of me. And happy to answer it. And I'll get the agenda out as soon as I can. If you, that's it for this episode. If you found it, exciting or useful, please share it with a friend, neighbor, colleague, your local ag community. Spread the word, my friends. You guys are doing it because things are happening. Things are happening on the YouTube channel. Things are happening in the podcast world as well. I appreciate it. I also need to let you know prices can change, strategies can change. We record this midweek. It goes out at the end of the week. Stuff happens. Do my best to try to keep you guys in the loop on strategy, but it does change, and my hands are tied on that one. If you want to be a guest on the show, send me an email. If you want to connect or sponsor, that's where you go as well, ryandenny.ca. Have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks for hanging in to the end. I'm out.